Well, we are celebrating Pride Month here at Coin 6, bringing you stories each week involving the LGBTQ plus community. Now tonight, we are taking a look at an April ruling by the United Methodist Church that drastically changes things for LGBTQ clergy and church members. They can now be out without fear of sanctions and perform same-sex marriages. Now, this has come with controversy, but here in the West, especially in Portland, it has been much celebrated, and I talked to many, from clergy to church members, who were personally impacted. A weight has been lifted for congregants at Portland First United Methodist Church. A recent decision by UMC on a global level removed anti-LGBTQ plus language from its book of discipline and social principles. But it comes after decades of darkness for many in the church, from clergy to lifelong members like Paul Nickel.
I have had people ask me over the years, why did you stay? Why did you stay all this time? Why don't you leave?
It is a complicated question for Paul, who in 1972 at 17 was just coming out as a gay man. That year, the church added new language to its principles, stating that homosexuality was incompatible with Christian teaching. And
once I heard that, that put me right back in the closet.
Paul stayed that way for 8 more years, and he was not alone. Reverend David Weekly of Rose City Park United Methodist hid his identity from congregants as a transgender man for 28 years.
And I couldn't deny my call, and so I decided, well, I will be the best pastor I can be, and when the time comes, I'll let that be what speaks and see where it goes.
In 2009, when his kids were old enough, he and his wife Deborah felt the time was right to share his story. He came out to his then congregation at Epworth UMC in the Hawthorne neighborhood.
There were colleagues who tried to press charges to take my ordination, but because there's no language in the Book of Discipline about transgender people at that time, there was nothing they really could pursue.
Even though some individual colleagues were upset, David says the Western jurisdiction of UMC churches has historically been more progressive than other areas of the country. David was Reverend Carly Hodges' pastor when she was in college, before either of them had come out.
Just knowing him and knowing that connection, having had him as my pastor and seeing that journey unfold for him here, gave me strength for the journey too, to know that, okay, people are doing this, people are being brave and telling their stories and living into their calls to ministry, and maybe I can do this too.
Carly met her future wife in seminary in Kansas City, Missouri, and encountered big roadblocks. They decided to move to Portland, where there are many so-called reconciling churches.
What it means is that we are reconciling all people into our church family, and that we welcome everyone. Doesn't matter whether they're gay, straight, disabled, whatever, all races, ethnicities, everything. And so we reconcile them together as one.
Khaki Cromer helps organize Portland First's involvement in the Pride Parade. For decades, Portland First and many other congregations in the Western jurisdiction essentially ignored UMC's social principles and Book of Discipline to participate in events like the parade. That's even when the church doubled down on anti-gay language at the General Conference in 2019.
But it was not the last time that God moved among them.
For Portland First Reverend Karen Richards-Kwan, that time period was difficult, knowing she could be sanctioned for, say, performing same-sex marriages.
It wasn't a surprise to me that this was happening, and not a surprise to me that I would potentially be faced with the choice to follow my conscience and to follow the faith that was instilled in me, that would be breaking the rules of the church and potentially cost me my credentials so that I could no longer pastor.
Our oldest son is gay, and so we experienced it as parents, watching our child.
Watch the damage churches can do to LGBTQ plus folks.
Ricky and Pam Mitchell previously belonged to a more conservative UMC in Texas. They say they fought to keep their son visible in the church.
We had to make sure he was recognized and that all our LGBTQ plus were recognized. And so we did things like, I have my rainbow shoes. You know, I wear my rainbow shoes to church every Sunday. I have a rainbow hat that I wear quite often.
They say coming to a reconciling church like Portland First has been incredible. The decision this past April at the General Conference to remove the anti-LGBTQ plus language came with much celebration, but not without controversy. Since 2019, when it became clear the more progressive UMC churches would fight for inclusivity language, 25% of UMC congregations in the U.S. have left, many of them joining the newly formed Global Methodist Church.
The people left at the table want to be at the table together. They care deeply about one another, even if they don't agree with one another. And that's not something that we've been able to have for a really long time.
The one thing all these people have had during the ups and downs is their unwavering faith.
Someone wise once told me, Paul, you can either make a point or make a difference. And if you want to make a difference, you have to stay, because if you leave, you cannot change the church.
I think the realization that for me, the best place to affect change is from within the system.
That they did, but as they move forward, they're working to repair damage from decades of pain.
There's grief. There's the people that have died, never seeing this day. There's people whose lives were ruined and devastated that can't recover. So it's a mixed thing. It's great news, and moving forward, I hope it's just wonderful.
And Reverend David Weekley has written 2 books that cover both his transition journey and also being a transgender person of faith. And if you want more information on the Western jurisdiction of UMC churches, reconciling churches in Portland, and much more, go to our article on KOIN.com.